The theme of this fractal is patience, which is a virtue I apparently possess. The goal is to save this giant, and to do that we need to break the seals on each of its body parts. To break a seal, we need to pick up a corrupting hammer and kill one of the zealots while wielding it. Luckily for us, the zealots are way too preoccupied with kneeling in front of the Colossus to notice one of its bodies being taken out. So by standing out of reach, we can lure one zealot at a time, kill it with the hammer, and then break the seal while in stealth. This requires a lot of waiting around on the stealth skills, but with the magic of video editing, you won't have to see that. These zealots are not too tricky to take out. Just having pistol 5 black powder will blind most of the attacks, except for the Fanatic's double strike dagger attack. And I'm not sure if Sugar Rush messes with it, but it's good enough for most enemies. So by just being patient and making sure they are blinded at all times, I crawl my way up to the top of this fractal. If you're wondering why I'm taking the hammer with me instead of resetting at the front of each seal, because I don't kill all the zealots at the seals, the respawn doesn't always work, and since I'm just taking it slow, I don't mind bringing the hammer all the way up with me. The end boss has a lot of tricky one-shot attacks. So my initial strategy was to find the high ground in the arena. There are a few spots to do that, and by standing on the high ground, you'll be able to avoid most of his attacks. Not too high, because then he will just go invulnerable and run back to his lookout spot. By standing on this pillar, there are only 3 lethal attacks that can hit you. For both phases, that's the hammer smash. But since you're on the high ground, you only have to jump to attack. And sometimes he's low enough to not having to jump that, but don't take any chances. And for the first 50%, there's the wells attack. The wells are random. There's no rhyme or reason on where they are placed. And they give agony at the moment of their creation. To evade them is a bit tricky because their wind-up time is longer than most attacks. And this is the attack I died to the most. In the second phase, it's the banished attack, which I just couldn't get the dodge right. Also in the second phase, he gains a pull skill, which is quite deadly in point blank range. Couple that with the bone fiends I just couldn't get rid of. I needed a different approach. The Arch Diviner is a special boss. Because he spends long times being invulnerable while people do the seal, and to prevent him from resetting while everyone is banished and he can't pathfind into the prisons, this boss doesn't reset at all, even when getting out of combat. We can abuse this by using Guild Wars 2 version of the Shadow form, by using Cloak and Dagger the moment you go out of the stealth. So basically perma-stealth. To help me with this, I booted up a Metronome by just googling Metronome. If I'm a Rhythm God or would use a macro, that would be on 20 beats per minute, times 3, because I like to count to 3, so 60 beats per minute. However, I'm not a Rhythm God, so I needed a bit of wiggle room, and I ended up with 54 beats per minute. You don't hear it, you don't see me doing this for an hour, thanks to editing, but I will be counting to 3 for a couple of days now. Surprisingly, I managed to do it the first try. However, the Arch Diviner doesn't go invulnerable using this method at the very end, so that caught me off guard and I ended up dying to it. However, the determination wins, although I almost messed it up again by being reckless at the very end. But it doesn't matter, it's over now. See you in the next one.